In celebration of World AIDS Day, the AIDS Services of Dallas held a ribbon cutting for its brand new building. This new facility is going to provide quality, affordable housing for low-income and formerly homeless individuals living with or impacted by HIV/AIDS. It is the 5th residential building that the agency has built so far in Dallas. Joining us to talk more about World AIDS Day today is Cece Cox, the CEO of Resource Center. Thanks for being here. It's been a while.
Glad to be here. Nice to see you again.
Let's talk about World AIDS Day, and I want to start off with how this has changed over the years. This movement has really pushed. It's pushed the scientific community. It's pushed the political community to speed up the development of medicines and therapies. Boy, the landscape has certainly changed with regard to that over these years.
It definitely has. There's still also a lot of misinformation, however, and stigma and lack of knowledge about HIV. There's no cure. People, fortunately, if they have access to medication and get on it and are tested and know their status, they can live much longer than we could in the earlier days because the drugs that have been developed over the years. And there's also a preventative known as PrEP. Which is shown to be highly, highly effective to prevent the transmission of HIV.
I want to ask you about that because this has gone for so many years, and people who were around years ago when so many of these therapies weren't available might see it very differently than younger people who have grown up with these therapies around. Is it harder to reach that younger group of people and impress upon them the importance of testing and how that is key to making sure that the medications work?
Well, there are definitely challenges to that. About a quarter of all new infections of HIV are from a young demographic, age 13 to 24. So that's a big chunk, which is why education is so important and getting proper information, accurate information out, and having access to being tested.
And it's interesting that, you talk about new infections there, and again, how, those disproportionately are affecting younger people. It doesn't seem like, before, we can remember back in the day when it was considered a death sentence if you got this. It seems like the attitudes toward that have changed over time. And again, people who have grown up with therapies around may not think of it the same way, may not take it necessarily as seriously as somebody who lived through those years.
Yeah, that's true in some instances. I mean, I'm of the age where when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I was losing friends. That's not usually what you're going through when you're that age. So if you didn't live at that time, it may not feel as urgent right now because people are typically leading longer lives, but all that comes with a caveat in that if you have access to the medication, if you get tested early and know your status so that you can get into treatment right away.
So what would you tell people as far as resources are concerned there? Because obviously you want to make that process as easy as possible, as seamless as possible for people to be able to get tested.
Right. Well, getting tested is free under the Affordable Care Act. Not all doctors actually will ask a patient if they want to have an HIV test, but nonetheless, you can get tested for free. You can also go to a lot of places around town, such as Resource Center. Free testing at our Nelson Thibodeau Clinic on Cedar Springs, Prism Health. There's a lot of providers that do testing.
Before we let you go, I have to ask you about the upcoming legislative session here in Texas. We now know that more than 20 bills have been pre-filed targeting LGBTQ plus issues. Give me your thoughts about this and how vigilant you and your organization and the community are going to have to be going into this session.
We're on hyper alert. The last session and all the extended special sessions subsequently were brutal, and we anticipate the next one's going to be brutal because the number of bills that have been pre-filed against our community, the statements that have been made by the Lieutenant Governor, who controls much of the schedule of the legislature, and we feel like we have a target on our backs. We're in a climate that is hostile. A lot of statements have been made, both in Texas and on the national level, that they're coming after the LGBTQ community, and particularly transgender people and their families. And it's a rough environment right now. And
yet nationally, the movement to respect same-sex marriages is moving forward on Capitol Hill.
It is. Good vote by the Senate. Now it needs to go back to the House, and yet it still does not codify all the rights that were enshrined by the Supreme Court decision. We know legislative actions can enhance or change those things. So the right to marriage in all 50 states actually feels fairly vulnerable right now.
Yeah, we'll have to keep on watching the Supreme Court for that.
Indeed.
Cece Cox with the Resource Center, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
You
Really
bet.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
On this World AIDS Day. For more on World AIDS Day, by the way, tune in to WFAA Plus, our app on Roku and Fire Stick. Tonight at 7 p.m., we're going to shed some more light on the disease. We're going to hear the stories of people who have been impacted and try to raise some awareness and work on reducing those stigmas. So that's coming up at 7 p.m. on our streaming channel there, WFAA Plus.